Okay, I'm going to start at the home page, www.sizeup.com. And as you can see, it recognizes me. So just to show you, when you go to start your account for registration, I'll fool it and tell it I don't have an account. So it's going to ask you three things. The first one is optional, your name. I didn't give it my name. Secondly is your email, that is required, and then you have to create a password, and that's required. Then you'll click on create an account, and instantaneously you'll have an account. I do think, as I recall, you'll get a bounce back email just asking you to confirm, but it's real simple and it's immediate. So I'm going to go to the home page again, and you'll see it auto-populates for me. It recognizes me with landscape contractors in Atlanta, Georgia. We'll use these two for this exercise. Real quick on landscape contractor, I will tell you, as you type in names, you'll see that it starts to auto-populate. So, for your industry, or if you're just researching a particular segment in the industry, just type in anything close. For instance, sprinklers. Lawn and garden will pop up, fire sprinkler will pop up, and then just make the appropriate choice. Just pay attention and be careful there, because, like, for instance, with sprinklers, it'll have in parentheses behind some of it wholesale. Well, that's who you buy from, the wholesale supplier. And you want to make sure you're getting the contractor or the installer segment. So for this exercise, we'll just stay with landscape contractor, and here we go. So you click continue, and then here are the three major sections of the site. The first is my business, and this is where, after you fill in revenue, number of employees, year started, insurance cost, workman's comp rate, it'll compare you to other businesses in the industry. The second section will actually map your competitors, suppliers, and customers. For the customers and suppliers, you'll have to do some inputting there. I'll show you that in a minute. And then the third section is advertising, and this is areas that are good potential targets, and we'll look at that. That's going to give you a little more demographic information about the population. So we're going to start with my business. Click on that, and you'll see here are the sections we have to fill out: revenue, year started, salary, employees. It will give you cost effectiveness, revenue per capita. It will give you local turnover, and you will have to fill in your healthcare costs and your workers' comp. So I'm going to do that now. I'm going to pause this, and we'll come back, and I'll show you what it gives you. So I filled in the blanks, and the first one I did was revenue. I put in 250,000, and then you can see down here a chart of how I compare to other businesses in Atlanta, in Fulton County, in the Atlanta MSA, as well as the state and the overall United States. Gives you a summary of it up here. I'm not going to read all this to you. It's a lot of information. There's a lot of good data in here, so I just want to point out where it is. You can also change your views of a lot of this stuff. So if I wanted to look at table as opposed to chart, I just click on that, and then click back to chart to see the chart. I will also tell you, it gives you your sources down here, so you just click on that if you want to know the source of the data. And this one, for instance, it says includes but not limited to IRS records, county courthouse filings, business publications, and corporate annual reports. So I'm going to hide that and go back to the normal chart view. You will also see it gives you a heat map, business revenue by zip code. You can zoom in or out. And as you zoom out, obviously it's going to take you from zip code to county to state to the national picture. It's very, very strong. Here are the resources over here. Like, for instance, on this one, it will offer you on deck if you're in the market for a small business loan. Want a business plan, want to create a forecast, here's live plan. So the resources and the considerations next to each section are pretty much relevant to that section, but they're really strong. So I'd spend some time with this. I found it, even as I got my business rolling, I found a lot of this information helpful. Here's your year started. Shows you how many other businesses started at that same time in the city, county, metro area, state, nation, and you can toggle on and off these areas. Like if I didn't want to see state, if I just wanted to see the city and county, I just turn everything else off. Shows me, okay, so I started in 2010. And says in that same year, 14 businesses in your industry started in your city, 31 in your county, 139 started in the metro area, 278 in the state. So there's a lot of good data here. And again, here's your source information. Tells you this is based again on IRS records, county courthouse filings, yellow and white page, business pubs, U.S. Postal Service, etc. Okay, here's where I filled in salary data for my average annual worker salary. And it says, how do I size up? The average salary for all workers in the nation for the closest corresponding industry category, land maintenance services, $30,231. Therefore, I'm above the industry average. My guess is they're pulling most of this. I think they'll tell you in the source from things like the Bureau of Labor Statistics. But again, it's all in here. So it just kind of gives you a feel, and then various considerations about your salary ranges and resources. It shows available jobs at Indeed, Indeed.com, for those of you that have used it. You can even search resumes there and look at salary data at salary.com or PayScale. Some of these sites are better than others, but if nothing else, it gives you a starting point. So here's your employee count, and then from there, it'll give you your cost effectiveness, which is essentially your annual revenue divided by the employee annual salary. Shows you how you compare. Again, same geographic areas, Fulton County, MSA of Atlanta, state of Georgia, United States. These considerations are pretty good. Some of it's very basic, but some of it's good. If nothing else, it gives you something to think about. And then various resources again. Revenue per capita is really, that's more a reflection of the market in your area. So that's going to be the total. That's going to be the total revenue for your industry divided by the population in the area you live in. So it's somewhat indicative of market potential, but again, just a lot of information here, so I don't want to try and cover it all. And you can see from the heat maps, here's revenue per capita by zip code. You can zoom in or out and take it from the zip code to the city, state, all the way up to the national level. Local turnover, this shows you the turnover in the area, again, for this industry. And if they don't have data on your specific industry, they'll find what they think is the closest one, but they'll tell you in the write-ups who's they're using. Like in this case, they're saying they're using landscape contractors. The turnover rate for services to buildings and dwellings, which is the closest corresponding category for landscape contractors. And then you can see your sources right here. I'm going to keep going down. Shows you net job change in your market, as well as metro, state, and national. Shows you how you do healthcare costs, your annual healthcare premium per employee compared to your competitors. In this case, I said I pay $4,200. They say, well, you pay $354 less per employee than the average company of your size in your state. And you can continue to read. Here's some resources if you want to go out and maybe work on lowering some cost or getting another quote. Same thing with workman's compensation. Okay, from here, let's go to the second section, competition. And before I do that real quick, just quick mention, all this data is fictitious, obviously, that I'm using. It's just to illustrate for this video. So I'm going to click on competition, and it's going to populate the competition based on what I answered before, landscape contractor. As you can see up here, Atlanta, Georgia. And you can go in here and edit this if you wanted to. I'm going to leave it as is, but this is where you can edit this. You can also, if you wanted to add in other categories of competitors, you can type them in here. Let's say I wanted to add landscape maintenance in for this part as well. So I'm just typing it in, and I'm waiting for it to auto-populate. There you are. So lawn and grounds maintenance, for instance. And I will, just for this exercise, I'll do this. Landscape maintenance. Add that in, give you a total listing of the competitors, 1,604 of them. show you where they're all located. The data over here on the heat map shows you consumer expenditures for household services by zip code in Fulton County. This is where you can overlay consumer expenditures in the market. So you can look at what the households are spending, and I'm going to select gardening and lawn care, which is probably, in all the choices here, it's probably the best indicator of market potential. But you can plug and play with this just by clicking on the drop down under consumer expenditures and just hit reset at any point in time if you want to reset it. But again, it just shows you consumer expenditures by total markets within the area. So it's pretty strong data, as you can see. This is customers. So let's say, as you can see, it auto-populated with home builders. I had set that in there before. Let's say that's a group of people you routinely go after. You can just type it in and it'll show you where they're located in that same market. It's pretty strong data. It's a great way to target prospects, see if you're aware of all these folks, and maybe start lining up some sales calls. Then the third and final tab in this section is suppliers. Again, this is going to auto-populate with just 5 different categories I grabbed. I grabbed irrigation, nurseries, lawn and garden equipment, landscape equipment, and mulches. And you can see, so in my same market area of Atlanta, it's showing me some 209 suppliers where they're located. So, it's pretty strong information. And again, the best thing to do is probably just get out there and play with the site and plug and play and become familiar with it. Okay, so for our third and final view, we'll take a peek at advertising. From this section, you see a pushpin map here. Just above it, you see this More Filters. If you click on that More Filters link, it'll open it up and you'll see that you have 2 basic categories of filters you can work with. One is industry performance, which is going to let you do things like, I want to look at markets where the average business revenue is 500,000 or more, and these are businesses like you. Or I want to look at markets where the total annual revenue for all the businesses in that market are 10 million or more. You can also look at total employees and revenue per capita. Obviously, you can see that starts to really pull back the number of markets you might want to look at advertising in. By the same token, you can come over here and start to set the filters for the demographic characteristics. Let's say I want all that, but I also want household incomes to be 75,000 or more. I won't worry about the rest of this stuff. Household expenditures would be a good one, but for the sake of time, I'll cut it out. Well, look, I've only got one market left. 30306. This is the zip code by city. Total revenue 11 to 12 million. Looks good. It's by Emory University, which of course doesn't surprise me. That's probably a pretty good area. Click on that to learn a little more about that community in specific. It'll tell me the best ranked industries, major employers, and you can see consulting services, diamonds, employee benefit consultants, pretty strong looking area. Tells you a little bit about the people, population, budgets, household expenditures, household income, home values, labor force, etc. So it's some pretty good information, and the idea here is for you to be able to dig in and find good markets with high potential, which are going to be indicated by things like home value, income, expenditures in that lawn and garden category overall. But obviously, it's just a way for you to take a long, hard look at the market and see which ones maybe make sense for you to spark up an advertising campaign. One thing I do want to mention about all this, when you look at this information at the company level, industry level, you're looking at the companies that are located in that market. So the word of caution, I mentioned this in the post. If I'm in Atlanta and I see this huge market because there's a bunch of companies located there, that doesn't necessarily mean they're all doing their business in that market or that zip code. I could be a huge company, show huge market potential for Atlanta, yet half my business is actually done in Columbus, Georgia or Rome, Georgia. So just word of caution on that. Strong tool. I encourage you to get familiar with it. The best thing to do is plug and play. Have fun. I hope you find it useful.